present a little bit more specific SNAP detail, and then we'll open it up for questions and answers about our work with our food assistance partnership, and then any other types of questions that you may have. So like I mentioned, I'll do my best to say our EBT or SNAP, but if I slip and I say bridge card, that's just the name of our EBT card in Michigan. It has a picture of the Mackinac Bridge on it, and that's kind of where it gets the name. So that's what I'm talking about if I say something that doesn't quite resonate with what you call it here in Minnesota. Let's just start by kind of taking a look at the differences across the Midwest. So I wanted to give you an idea of where, kind of where Michigan sits and where Minnesota sits in terms of SNAP distributed per month. And so in the Midwest, Michigan, we're third. We have about we have $248 million worth of SNAP distributed each month in our state. That's a lot of money. And in Minnesota, you're at 62. And so, there is certainly, when we're talking about ways in which I think there's opportunities for our state and opportunities for your state to increase access, but there are also differences in the amount of benefits that are distributed between our states. And that's really because there's a difference in the total number of SNAP recipients per state. So there are different total number of people receiving SNAP, and that is also related, of course, to our state populations. So I pulled out population data, and when you look at the percentage of population receiving SNAP across the Midwest, it ranges anywhere between 10 and 18%. In Michigan, we have certainly felt the economic downturn and some of the crisis in the automotive industry and are at the higher end of that. So I also want to look at SNAP at farmers markets by state. And so here, the green bar is the number of farmers markets. And this comes from Agricultural Marketing Service, so it's the USDA database. And we, of course, all know that that's not perfect, but it is one place where we can go to compare our numbers by state. And then the brown bars here are the number of farmers markets authorized as SNAP retailers last year in 2012. And that's data from USDA FNS. And again, this data is not perfect. So there are certainly farmers markets that are not classified as farmers market or as retailers. In USDA database, those farmers markets that have been authorized for a longer period of time, and there's some discrepancy. Some of the farmers markets, when you come to talk about what is a definition of farmers market, at statewide level, we may have a different definition than USDA level, but it gives us a place to at least start that comparison. And so the number of farmers markets authorized as SNAP retailers, when we look at it in terms of percentage, Illinois, it ranges from Illinois at 19%, to Michigan at 67%. So this is just kind of the range in Midwest of number of farmers markets. And I think that, this just again shows that there's a lot of still a lot of work that we can all do to continue to increase access. So when you look at the numbers in terms of SNAP redeemed at farmers markets, I think that Michigan is certainly stands out, and that's because we have a large number of SNAP benefits, but we also have a really large number of farmers markets that are able to accept those benefits. So the more farmers markets that you have accepting SNAP, the more people in your state understand that they can use SNAP at farmers markets, and the more support that you have collectively to advertise and promote that farmers markets are one place where people can use their EBT cards. So I just want to share a little bit of our techniques and ways that we've done to increase the number of farmers markets that accept SNAP. We've really focused on partnerships and community developing partnerships at our state level, but also at the community level, because we have found that a lot of farmers markets have limited capacity, and they have limited kind of connections with the target audience with SNAP recipients. So a number of market managers that we work with have just said, I don't know exactly where to start in terms of promotion. I need to find someone in my community that's already working with SNAP recipients that can help us explain the benefits of being able to shop at the farmers market so that we can justify some of the costs and some of the ways in kind of bringing this program to our farmers market. So that's really for the market's been the kind of the number one benefit, assistance reaching their target audience, access to resources. Some community partners help by providing a staff person to come to the market and be at the market to accept transactions, and that's certainly one of the things that we've heard from markets in Michigan. The biggest cost to these programs is administrating the cost and having someone at the market during the entire duration of that market where they have a table and they're accepting transactions the entire time that they're there. And so that's one place where some of our farmers markets have been able to rely on community partners. Historically, it was, for us, we had community partners, actually in our early stages, like 2007, 2008, we had community partners that were actually really interested in taking on the entire SNAP program for farmers markets, and that worked really well. We had food co-ops that would run a SNAP program for a farmers market, and now it's no longer allowable from USDA to do that. And so we've had to, now USDA mandates that the decision-making body for the farmers market be the one that's authorized and accepting payments. And so that's certainly been a transition in the way that we worked in establishing community partners, but it's just kind of developing a relationship where the farmers market is still certainly the responsible party, but may pull in partners as part of their overall effort to accept these programs. And there's increased awareness. Anytime you bring in more partners to work on something, you're just increasing awareness that this is accepted. We also, probably in 2010, went to formalizing our commitments. And so we actually have a food assistance partnership commitment form. And this is the way that we track the number of partners that are involved in our food assistance partnership. And it's a really simple one-page form. And it allows people to indicate how they want to participate. And so they can participate as a host, and that means they're making a financial contribution of $250 to supporting this. They can participate as an active partner, which means they participate in conference calls and any types of meetings or communications about how we're working to increase access across the state. Or they can participate as an outreach partner. And this has been really helpful as well, because initially we wanted people to, across the state, participate, in monthly conference calls and in webinars. And some people that we work with, just don't have the capacity to be able to do that, but they do have the capacity to work with us as an outreach partner. And that means that quarterly, we send out updates, whether it's the list of farmers markets across the state that are accepting bridge cards, or new markets that we've added on, and then they can distribute that through their networks. And so we work with partners like 211, which is a call-in number when someone has, has a food need. They can call that number, ask for resources, and our list of farmers markets that accept bridge cards are included in that. We work with our Department of Human Services, our Department of Community Health, our State Department of Agriculture, and a lot of times we don't even know when, there's a lot of people kind of working on our behalf, and this year we didn't even know that when someone calls in to check the balance on their SNAP card, their bridge card, the message says, you can use your bridge card at Michigan Farmers Markets. And it was fantastic, and the reason we know that is because one of the students that works for us, she uses her bridge card at farmers markets. She called in to get her balance while she was at our farmers market at the Capitol, and she's like, did you know that when you call this, number? And so there's just a lot of people that when we've worked with long enough that when there's an opportunity for promotion like that, they can make sure to plug in and take advantage of that. Some of the just kind of list of people that we've worked with, I mentioned state agencies. We work a lot with our Food Bank Council of Michigan and emergency food providers like Gleaners and other food pantries at kind of the state level all the way to the very local level. low-income housing units, senior centers and refugee centers. We've worked with service agencies like United Way and Salvation Army. Churches, a lot of local churches have pantries and programs for their residents. We work with them to get information out that local farmers markets can accept SNAP. Youth programs, I mentioned Head Start through our Hoop Houses for Health program, and other programs, and then university programs. A lot of kind of nutrition education for us. Michigan State University has nutrition educators and extension, and we're working with a lot of them to get information out to vulnerable families that they're already working with. The really important thing about partnerships for us is that, again, you have to have a shared mission or goals, and so one of the things that we often think about when we approach a new partner is what do they want to get out of this? And so we do a lot of listening, and this is kind of similar in our policy work with state legislators, and when we're developing partnerships, we listen to hear what's motivating someone in this area. Is it a health issue? Is it an economic development issue? Is it community development issue? Is it kind of farmer, new and beginning farmer focused? Are they focused on families? We try to hear what people need to, or really need to focus on, and then we're able to frame our message in a way that kind of convinces them to contribute to this, because it's really helping them also meet their needs. You have to have a shared audience, and it really needs to be mutually beneficial. And so we've worked to make our partners see how this is impacting their programs and the ways in which they're contributing is benefiting them and the audiences that they work with. One of the, for us probably at the local level, one of the easiest ways to start to build a partnership is around an activity, because it's very visible, it's something, there's an outcome, and it's a really good place to start. So a lot of the farmers markets that we work with, we recommend this as a place to get started. So you can do activities for youth. There's a lot of different ideas out there, programs that you can have health screenings, fundraisers, different types of outreach. You could actually do food distribution at your farmers market. So for example, with our farmers market nutrition program coupons, which we call Project Fresh, we have some county health departments actually distributing those coupons at a farmers market, and that's a really good place. What we've found in Michigan is that redemption rates are increased dramatically when the vouchers are distributed at a farmer's market, or someone can receive them, because you're reducing those kind of transportation barriers. And redemption, when you have higher redemption rates, it looks really good for the agency that's distributing those. Other things that you can do, this is an example of more cooking demonstrations. People seem to love cooking demonstrations, and sampling, we agree, is important in Michigan for people to taste samples. They have to have a temporary food establishment license, and that's something that, just like you were working on and talking about earlier, we're also working on in Michigan. At the Northwest Detroit Farmers Market, they actually have a shuttle that runs from senior housing centers around the community, and this is the shuttle. It picks them up at certain times. It drops them off at the farmers market, and they have added now, I believe, 2 10 by 10 easy up tents that provide shade for the seniors, so when they're done shopping, they have a place to sit and hang out and wait for the bus. And a lot of markets that we're working with that are specifically working with senior centers have found that it's a great outing, and it's a really, farmers markets are a fun place to be. They're a fun place to people watch and shop, and as long as you have a place where people can comfortably relax, it's a really good thing to add to your farmers market. There's a lot of partnerships that we've been developing with intermediate school districts. Some of this is related to food distribution and kind of showcasing food that's out of the farmer's market by sending it home with children in their backpacks, and then promoting that the market also accepts bridge cards, so they're getting something to try, sample, and then it entices them to come back to the farmer's market. We invite important people like Governor Snyder to our farmers markets at the Capitol and walk them around and talk about the benefits of accepting bridge cards and why this should stay on his dashboard of a measure of healthy communities, and why it's important that the state continue to or think about investing in these types of programs. And in terms of training and technical assistance, we have published a manual for market managers that's available for purchase on how all of the steps accepting bridge cards at farmers markets. We do an annual webinar every March. We walk people through how they can accept bridge cards at their farmers market. We have also 2 years, and now this year will be our third. We do a market manager mentorship program where it's an application process. People apply to be mentors and people apply to be mentees. And we pair market managers who are experienced with accepting bridge cards at their market with people who are new to it. And it's kind of a formal relationship where we as a statewide association can certainly help answer questions and are certainly a resource. But sometimes having someone who's been standing in a market when your machine goes down and is kind of a friend that can walk you through it has also been another layer of support, and that's really important because things certainly go wrong sometimes, and sometimes it's also nice to just have a friend who's been through it and you can kind of share ideas off of. And then in terms of statewide outreach, we have really worked towards creating a brand and creating templates and tools that our markets across the state can use in really easy formats. So a lot of these are templates that they can use in Word. There's posters that just say bridge cards, welcome here. What we've found is that it really resonates with people when they see what they have in their pocket. And so this is something, we've done posters, we've done web badges, we've done banners. These are 2x8 banners that people hang on their table or behind their booth that says their bridge cards are welcome here. We've done news release templates. Every year we do what we call our mini brochure. So if any of you go to professional sporting events, like this idea came out of the Detroit Tigers sports schedule. They had these mini brochures with their schedules, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's the same size as a bridge card. And so we make the front look exactly like the bridge card, and then inside are all of the farmers markets in the state that accept bridge card. Our challenge is that it's getting a little too big now, and so we have to figure out how to make that fit in that space. But we do that, we release that every year, and now we have a key where we add additional information and other food assistance programs that they accept too. So flyers, posters, we've done buttons that vendors can wear so people know that they accept them, and a lot of other things to really promote, really kind of get the word out that farmers markets are a place where people can use their SNAP card as well. And I believe now we have about 20 minutes, and we're gonna open it up for questions and answers, and maybe we could first focus on SNAP related questions, if that makes sense, and then we'll take any other questions anyone has.
What are the costs involved?
So the question is, what is the cost involved of accepting SNAP? Really good question. What we've heard from our markets is that the biggest expense is staffing or administration. So the time, because you have to have someone at your market. If you don't have a volunteer, you have to have someone who's responsible for this program at your market. And then there's other initial setup fees, and it really depends on if you already have kind of a centralized market manager tent at your market. So if you already have a market manager tent, then you probably have a place where you could accept them. Then you would need a point of sale device, which is the device to do transactions. Right now, for any new market, USDA is supporting the cost of that wireless device. And then you'd need to invest in an alternative redemption system. And in most markets in Michigan, that's a wooden token. And they cost, that's a couple $100, between $150 and $200 for an initial wooden token. And how it works is basically someone would come up to your central tent, your market manager tent. They would have their EBT card. They would ask you that they'd want to spend $10 at the market. You would swipe their card, and you'd give them that $10 in wooden nickels Or you can do paper script, which a lot of markets in Michigan use like a bridge card or a business card template, and they have to be serialized. So you have, for any type of paper script, you would, if someone asked, for a $10 transaction, you would then give them $10 worth of wooden tokens. They would use those tokens to purchase any eligible food item at the market. So you would have worked with your vendors to train them on what they can accept. And then the vendors would turn those tokens into you at the end of the market day, and you would reimburse them on a schedule that works for your market. So that you might send them a check once a week, you might send them a check every other week or once a month, kind of depending on what works best for your market.
And then how does the market get reimbursed at our, where we have our central location?
Good question.
Where do we get reimbursed?
The question was how do you get reimbursed? And you have to have a bank account to establish it, and within 72 hours, within 48 to 72 hours, your money is directly deposited into your account.
Quick question for you, Drew. You mentioned using paper script like business cards, but in the state of Michigan, even if you do that, each card has to have a different serial number on it?
Yeah.
Correct. And that's the question is if you use paper script, does each card have to be individually serialized? And the answer is yes, and that's a USDA rule.
Kind of a multi-part question. So you guys do a $20 match. How did you get that funded? Because that's quite a lot of money to match. And then you said that it's only eligible on fruits and vegetables, so it's not can be used for like bread or cheese or meat or anything, right?
So the question was about a SNAP incentive program in Michigan that's called Double Up Food Bucks. And the question was where does the money come to support a $20 match? And the answer to that is that's actually a Fair Food Network program, and the money comes from private foundations, more than 50 private foundations that have invested in that program from the very local level to the national level. And the $20 the $20 match is limited to Michigan-grown fruits and vegetables. And that's really kind of tied to policy initiatives to support increased consumption of healthy foods like fruits and vegetables. And so the question is can that incentive be used on items like bread or meat or cheese? And the answer is no. The incentive can be used on fresh fruit and vegetables, Michigan-grown fresh fruits and vegetables, but the EBT, the SNAP dollars, can be spent on any eligible food items. And there are certainly people that are using their SNAP dollars on a wide variety of other eligible products.
Can you talk about some creative strategies that you've seen for covering the long-term wireless and staffing costs, aside from sort of the typical grants?
Yeah, so the question was, what are some creative strategies to covering costs associated with long-term wireless and transaction fees? The answer is that I'm not sure how creative it is, but what we're seeing in Michigan, a lot of markets are moving towards charging vendors. And so passing the cost on to vendors, it's a service for vendors. The markets really don't make any money, and they're charging vendors between 3% and 5%, which is similar to a debit or credit card transaction. And so a lot of markets are moving to charge vendors. So a vendor, if a vendor turned in $100 worth of their EBT tokens, then they'd have to pay a percentage, $3 or $5 of that. It would be taken off the top when it was reimbursed. I am a vendor that sells at a farmer's market, and I get a lot of people asking me, or I have a lot of other vendors talk to me and complain about that. And I personally think that the market's taking on a huge administrative burden. I see those costs, and I think as vendors, we get those extra sales, and 3 to 5% is pretty little. And so as a vendor, I personally am supportive of that. And to me, those are additional sales. We wouldn't have to accept them, and so to me, 3% is zero, or 3% of 100 is $3. So to me, it makes sense. To other people, it's certainly a tension point, but I think that's a really good strategy.
On average, how many of these markets that accept EBT also do central credit and debit card function as well?
The question was, how many markets that are accepting EBT also are doing debit and credit? In Michigan, between 40 and 50%, and I think we're going to move to where more and more markets are also accepting debit and credit. A creative way is some people for debit and credit, not for EBT, for debit and credit, do charge what they're calling a token rental fee. And so basically they pass some of those costs on to the consumers. You cannot do that for SNAP. You cannot charge SNAP consumers any additional fees. So if someone comes with their EBT card and they ask for $10, they get $10. You cannot charge them anymore. But for debit and credit, there are creative ways around that. People call them different types of charges.
An observation more than a question. I saw that almost half of your total redemption was in your $20 call. Do you think that your program would be as successful as it is without that? And secondly, we've always heard that 3 to 5% of people are customers to the farmers market. There's a 0.5%. Do you see that we can get that 3 to 5% out of the SNAP customers?
Yeah, so you asked two questions or kind of a comment. One of them was that would SNAP at farmers markets be as successful as it is without double up food bucks? And I think that's a really good question. It's hard to kind of sort them out. Double up food bucks has certainly enhanced the acceptance of SNAP at farmers markets. I mean, having a program where people get additional money to purchase fruits and vegetables, of course, that is an incredible asset. But I also think that more and more markets are accepting. There are more and more people that know that they can use their bridge cards at farmers markets. There's a lot of increased interest in eating healthy, and so there's a lot of factors that are playing in with that. And your question was about, do you think that we can get to 3 to 5% of SNAP recipients using their bridge cards at farmers markets? And I think, yeah, why not? And we should shoot for higher.
Do all of the vendors there have to do it, or is it just ones that choose to?
So the question is do all vendors at a farmer's market have to participate? And the answer is that in the past, we have worked with markets that have made it mandatory, but I believe, so there's a slight gray area that we are working on getting answered right now, but there are two, because I believe it's a legal issue where you cannot make it mandatory for a vendor to participate. And so what we have...
Basis, can you be the only vendor there that accepts it and nobody else will?
Okay, so the question is, can you be the only vendor at a farmer's market that accepts EBT? And the answer is yes. And if your farmer's market is not currently accepting EBT and you want to, USDA will support you as a farmer with the purchase of a point-of-sale device. They have added that. Good question.
So, like the collection and the storage of like the money coming in and out, like if it's a city-run farmers market, that bank account, is that a city, then just a separate bank account, or does it go into, I guess, just to keep the money funneled the right way?
Yeah, so the question is what bank account do you use when you're setting it up? And every city's, and to be honest, just broader, local government is a little bit different. Some do start just their own separate bank account for it, and others have different ways of doing it. So I just ask your accountant how they want to do it and make it as easy for them as possible, and whatever works best for them if they're willing to take on the responsibility for you.
Can I just say really quick, because I work for a city and they did this, I talked to your accounting department, they're very familiar with dealing with all kinds of pass-throughs and grants, and they'll just set up sub-ledger codes. So let them
We can't hear her.
So she just commented that she does work with the city government, and their accounting department is very familiar with setting up sub-accounts and different, and she kind of reiterated, work with your local government, and they'll be able to establish a system that'll work for them.
But we could use our own already established bank account for it.
Correct.
You just briefly mentioned something about the legalities around requiring it at farmers markets for vendors. Do you have any more information about what the issue is there?
So the question was about legality of mandating that vendors participate. And right now there are 2 lawsuits that I've heard about, not in Michigan, in other states on the East Coast, where vendors are either threatening or are suing their market for mandating them to participate in a federal food assistance program that they are not supportive of. So I don't know the outcome of that, and that's why it's kind of an area where we're waiting to hear. And what we're doing is we're having markets strongly encourage vendors to participate because it's a much more cohesive. If your farmer's market is participating, it's so much more cohesive for your shoppers if anyone that has an eligible food item is participating. It just makes more sense when they're in the marketplace. It's easier for a shopper to navigate. And that's really our focal area, is making it easy. When people come to a farmer's market for the first time, they know how to use their card, they're comfortable with it, and it's really easy to navigate.
Does Minnesota have anything like a double up food box?
The question was, does Minnesota have anything like a double up food bucks? And the answer is yes, it's called Market Bucks. And they'll be hearing more about Market Bucks a little bit later.
Drew, in our market, we mandated that if you're a vendor in our market and you're eligible to accept Market Bucks, you can accept it. Otherwise, don't be vendors or markets. I'm not going to put up that like. But if I wanted to knock on the door of the USDA and ask that question, where's that form at?
So the question from Kathy is that if she wanted to ask a question, for USDA, where would she go? And we typically go to the USDA Midwest Regional Office in Chicago. We work primarily with Robin Masters, who's under Dick Gilbert, and they've been really. I met Dick Gilbert at the conference in Iowa, and he's participated in our food assistance partnership. He's been a huge supporter of our work, and so we typically go to the USDA Midwest Regional Office first.
I would say number 1, Robin Masters is super helpful in all questions about EBT, but that was not my question. Can you talk about how the Michigan Farmers Market Association was involved, if they were, with developing the double ups program, and how $20 was arrived at as the magic number on that?
So the question was, how was our Michigan Farmers Market Association involved in the start of Double Up Food Bucks, which originally started as Mo-Bucks in 2009, and how was $20 the magic number? And the initial, the program is definitely a Fair Food Network program, and we were involved in an advisory role initially, served on an advisory committee, and now we are involved. We have a contract with Fair Food Network, and they contract with us to manage the relationships and token distribution relationships and record keeping with market managers. And so our asset as an association is we already have strong ties to Michigan farmers markets, to market managers. We have those relationships established, and so our work as an association is we manage the application process, we distribute, we coordinate trainings in the spring, we distribute tokens in May and in June. The program this year was July 1 through October 31st. Next year I think it's going to go back to June 1. I'm not certain, but and then we work on ensuring that there's a lot of record keeping that markets have to do as part of this. So we ensure that everyone's keeping the records that they're required, and then we work on token collection in November. And so Double Up Food Bucks is a silver token, $2 value, and it's a universal token, so it's not unique to markets. It's accepted statewide. And $20, to be honest, I don't know. I'll ask Rachel, and I'll share what I learned. But I can ask Rachel and Oren, but I don't know right off the top of my head.
Give us an example of one of the partnerships that you have with the community and how that is mutually beneficial for both partners. And if you can give an example of either partnership with a university campus or a senior center or a daycare provider, that would be great. And also you mentioned coupons. So how does that work? How they're redeemed and your
So you have a couple questions there, and I'll try to answer them individually. So I'll going in reverse. The last question was, I mentioned coupons, and what are those, and how do those work? In Michigan, our farmers market nutrition program is a coupon-based program. And so for both Market Fresh, which was formerly Senior Fresh, which is the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program, they get $32 coupons to use at farmers markets. Same thing for WIC moms. And so they are $2 coupons that they're given by their county health department. They then take them to a farmers market. Eligible vendors for Michigan-grown fruit and vegetables accept them. The client has to sign their coupon in front of the vendor, and then the vendor accepts them. The vendor turns them in to the market manager, who is an authorized vendor. The market manager submits them to the Department of Community Health, and then the Department of Community Health reimburses the market reimburses the vendor. That's not at all cumbersome, huh?
No.
So that's the coupon program, which is the Farmers Market Nutrition Program in Michigan. There's also Hoop Houses for Health in Michigan, which is another coupon-based program, $2 coupons that are distributed to Head Start families, and those Head Start families use those to purchase produce from participating farmers that have received Hoop House loans. In that case, the market's not involved in redemption. The vendor just batches them in $100 batches and mails them directly back us, and we take that off their loan. That's the coupon program. The other question you had is, can I give you an example of ways in which we work with community partners? And are you asking this as a statewide association, or at a local level?
At a local level, the sort of direct partnership between a farmer's market and a community partner.
Yeah, so in our, so say for example in our community in Bath, we work directly with our senior center, and our senior center purchases produce from our farmers market to use in their senior center meals. They have weekly lunches, and then also promotes our farmers market to seniors that come to this community center for lunch, for card games, for activities. There are a lot of communities that we work with that have community organizations that actually come to the farmers market. So for example, at the Kalamazoo Farmers Market, they work with their YMCA. Their YMCA brings children, they do their youth programming actually at the farmers market. In Ypsilanti, they actually set up an outdoor classroom, which is just 2 10-by-10 easy up tents weighted together. They have a table and chairs, and they have different educational events there, sometimes for families, sometimes specifically for children. A number of farmers markets that we work with their local library, and their library comes and does a reading hour at the farmers market, and it's a way for libraries to promote themselves, but also for the farmers market to have an activity there. A lot of times they focus on, stories that highlight fresh foods or community involvement or some type of, subject matter that relates to the farmers market. Any other questions? And even just general questions, I think we have maybe 2 or 3 more minutes.
So this is all great, but what do you see as the future of the SNAP program with all the legislative things coming up? And are we supposed to be lobbying our representatives to keep this program?
So the question is what do I see as the future of SNAP, and what can we do to maintain the program? We are at a statewide level advocating for SNAP programs. We're contacting our legislators. We're definitely in support of food assistance programs that help vulnerable families in our state. And to be honest, I don't know exactly what's going to happen with the program. I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now. And one more question.
This might be a more organizational question, but for the Michigan Farmers Market Association, can you estimate sort of how much of your overall work is in promoting, what percentage of your work is promoting this SNAP program, and what percentage work local in promoting farmers markets? And I think it's
So the question is what at our Michigan Farmers Market Association level, approximately what percentage is dedicated towards specifically focusing on SNAP versus broader messaging that's focused on other benefits. And I would say at this point in time, probably in the last year, probably 25%. And that has probably decreased because as a percentage, you know, we have a lot more to talk about now than we did a couple of years ago. And so, and as our programs have grown, I think that it easily could have been 50% or more 2 or 3 years ago. And we just now have additional programs, so probably, I would say still probably 25%. It's really important to us organizationally. All right. Well, thank you so much. Can I add one other thing quickly? I just wanted to add another thing that we have what we call our Bridging the Gap, kind of playing off of our bridge card report. This is the 4th year that we've written the report. It's on our website, which is MFMA.org. And we have, since about 2007 or 8, we've surveyed Michigan farmers markets that accept SNAP. We get a typically pretty good return rate, and we have a whole 3 pages of indicators of information that we collect. And I would just say that being able to have indicators and data to support our messages have really helped. And so for the Minnesota Farmers Market Association, if you survey your members or you want to get information from your members, as farmers market managers and vendors, please complete those surveys. That data is so essential to, at a statewide level, making your voice heard. And people listen when they have, some people really kind of, you know, listen to anecdotal stories and that, and some people really need numbers in front of them. So that's a way that market managers and farmers can contribute.